Hey y'all, welcome to the start of another reading vlog. For this reading vlog, I'm going to be partaking in Jante's Inferno, and initially I was planning for this vlog to last the entire time Jante's Inferno was running from the 6th to the 16th. However, past Nat was a pain and procrastinated finishing her Valentine's Day video. So for the whole first week, I did not get past circle 9 of Jante's Inferno because I was trying to finish out the books for my Valentine's Day video, which has already come out. I'll put a link to that in the cards. Past Nat, that bitch. So it's currently the 11th, which is a Sunday, and I figured, you know what? I'll just officially treat this like a weekly reading vlog for Jante's Inferno, and I want to buckle down to try and get out of hell. Will that happen? I don't know. So Jante's Inferno is based on the 9 Circles of Hell. I am currently in number 9, where we are supposed to be reading a book with snow on the cover, and I am still in the middle of The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. When I first started this, I was a little unsure. It started really slow, but once around like 100 pages, I was in. I was so in. When we officially have the main character becoming a driving force in the plot, I was all over this. And anytime I do pick it up, I am so engaged. I'm loving it. The writing is incredibly atmospheric. I totally get why so many people talk about this book for the atmospheric writing. The folklore feel with it, seeing as how there are multiple different mythological creatures, is also really up my alley. Then the warring, I guess you could say religions, but like not necessarily religion, practices, beliefs actually would probably make more sense. The warring beliefs between the pagan folklore-based bits where we're seeing those mythological characters, and then also Christianity, which is starting to become more and more prevalent. 2 individuals who are really pushing against those pagan beliefs are Constantine, the priest that has been sent to this small village, as well as our main character's evil stepmother, Anna, who can also see these mythological beings but believes they are demons. Those sorts of themes also perfectly up my alley. It makes total sense. I was loving this. I have not even 40 pages left in this book. Josh and I went to Silent Book Club yesterday, and I continued reading into it there. Was really hoping I would finish it, but unfortunately didn't. However, I have just finished out filming for my Valentine's Day video, so I'm gonna be editing that for the rest of the night, but once I finish, you can bet your ass I will be reading this book. Officially get past circle 9, and then circle 8 is to read a horror or a thriller. So I am going to be double counting my digital jar prompt for the month, which was 10 plus years old, and reading Heart-Shaped Box by Joe Hill. I have gotten a physical copy as well as an audiobook copy of this, so hopefully going back and forth between those will make sure I work through it really fast. So rather than a readathon vlog, this is sort of turned into a weekly reading vlog, which I guess works since my TBR jars picked also for this TBR worked out well in the end. As I said, I am going to start on editing this monstrosity of a video, and then I am also doing some laundry, washing my makeup brushes. Probably should eat some lunch because it's almost 3 o'clock and all I've had today was an egg bite. Hey y'all, happy Monday. I hope you had a good one. Mine was fairly decent. I ended up having to help out my brother this morning and babysit his kids for a little bit. I will never complain about getting to see my niece and nephew, but then I had to do actual work things. The worst. However, I have some reading updates for you guys. First off, I officially finished out The Bear and the Nightingale last night, so I finally moved past circle 9. I am really excited to continue reading this series. I think the idea of the plot that has been laid out here is really fascinating, but you could almost sort of read this one as a standalone, except I'm so curious about what comes next. Also, the final confrontation with the priest character was so satisfying because I didn't like him. I think he is a fantastically written character, but I didn't like him, so the final confrontation between him and Bastia was very satisfying. But anyway, finally moved past the 9th circle. So then for the 8th circle, I was going to read my digital book for the month, which was Heart-Shaped Box by Joe Hill, and was also the oldest book on my TBR, which was kind of like the reason it was on my TBR for the year, to finally get it read. Oldest, and like I added it the longest time ago. Not in that it had the oldest publication date on my TBR. I feel like I should clarify that. In this, we're following this rock musician who's been retired for a while now, and he collects all of these really dark and really macabre things. At the beginning of the book, he ends up buying this suit that is supposed to be haunted off of some like knockoff eBay. The suit is actually a lot more haunted than he's expecting, and there's a reason for that. There's background there that I guess technically give it away in the synopsis, so I won't tell you either. I DNF'd this book. I DNF'd at about 143 pages. The idea of this book is really cool, and I do think Hill could write some like creepy and unsettling scenes. Pretty quickly, I couldn't help but wonder, how is this book so long? It feels like we are moving so fast and this should end at any point now. How is this possibly going to continue? Then I later wondered how Hill was ever going to make me like this main character, Jude the Rocker, because he was awful. I think Hill was trying to create this unlikable character, but also sort of lay down the groundwork to showcase he has a traumatic backstory. There's a reason for why he acts this way, you know? That's an explanation, but it's not an excuse for how terribly he treats everyone around him. Being in his head it wasn't exhausting, but it was just so insanely frustrating. And like, I couldn't understand how this man was so unempathetic, not to mention the fact that he is sleeping with a woman who could literally be his daughter. It's told that anybody who's around him will also be impacted by the ghost. Like, he specifically is told that. He shares that information with her. And for some reason, she sticks around, which I just could not understand, because it seemed like there was no love lost between them. I didn't get what could possibly be so fantastic that staying with this guy was literally possibly worth her life, especially once she realizes how serious this is, how real this actually is. I didn't get it, because again, Jude is awful. So I ended up putting this down because I just, first off, don't think Hill can ever make me root for this character. I would not care if he died. And on the other side, I don't understand why the female main character, Mary Beth, who Jude lovingly refers to as Georgia because she's from Georgia, and apparently it's too difficult to learn her name, even though she's been living with him for like 9 months. So while I hoped that Mary Beth would survive this, I also just felt like she didn't care about her own well-being enough for me to care about her well-being. And then when it seemed like we were gearing up for a road trip sort of situation, I just stopped caring. It's ridiculous. So this got put down pretty quickly, but as I always say, life's too short to read bad books. Officially put that one down and started into the Gilda stories by Joel Gomez, which was going to be my pick for Circle 7, a vampire story, but will also technically work for Circle 8, which was a horror thriller, and you know, that works out really well actually. So I technically will be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. This one was put on my 12 Recs by 12 Friends, and really the only thing I knew about it was that we were following a black lesbian vampire. And I believe this came out in like the 90s. It was really intriguing to me to see this sort of a setup because I never heard of it before. I'm already about 2 hours into the audiobook and I downloaded the ebook, so I'm definitely gonna continue reading that tonight. But we initially are following this young girl who was a slave, and she ran away from the plantation because she was being terribly abused. She ends up taking refuge in a cellar and is eventually found by the 2 women that own it, who we first come to find out are Gilda and Bird. It wasn't explicitly stated that they were vampires, but you pick up on little things in how they act. I believe Gilda was white, but she was definitely an abolitionist given this time period. We do get a little bit of nods towards the time. When we first meet this girl, she's quite young, but now she's about 17, 18-ish. The Civil War is on the verge of breaking out. And then I believe Bird is a Native American woman. They keep saying Indian. She is finally starting to realize what Gilda and Bird are, the significance of that. Really, really digging it. Hopefully between the ebook and the audio, I will get through it pretty quickly. Maybe I'll move through another Circle of Hell. We'll see. I really have no clue about how far into this I will actually get. Hey guys, happy Tuesday. I had a pretty good day as far as work goes. I was quite productive. I came home, I took Faith on a walk, great. I did my yoga, which was a nice relaxing one because I was feeling pretty drained after my walk. Made a tasty dinner, and then I laid on the couch reading a lot of best of Redditor updates rather than doing something productive. you know, editing the hour-long video that I need to get done or finishing the book that I'm currently in the middle of. Yeah, I don't know. I just was not feeling it. I've been laying on the couch and now I'm realizing it's 11 o'clock and I still need to take a shower. Great choices today, Nat. You're really killing it. Also, I wanted to show off my new, like, lazing around the house sweatshirt that my mom got me for Christmas because it is so comfortable. That's what I do. I read books, I drink coffee, and I know things. Obviously, it's a play on the guy from Game of Thrones, Peter Dinklage's character, I'm pretty sure. Very comfortable. It's like this very nice fleece lining. It's so soft. I want to live in it all the time now. I did actually make a fair amount of progress into the Guild of Stories by Joel Gomez today. Well, actually both last night and today. I listened to a lot of the audiobook and then I read some of the ebook both when I was falling asleep last night and then when I was getting up this morning, which was also probably not the greatest idea because since I was reading on my phone, I had a hard time going to sleep last night. Probably won't be any better tonight. I have a sneeze right here and it's not coming up. That's annoying. After I did my yoga, I was clear on the road to finishing the Guild of Stories while I was cooking dinner. So I went ahead and was gonna pick my next book for Circle 6, which was a new release or a hyped book. Wasn't sure what I was gonna go with on this one, so I kind of left it up as a mood read choice. You know, I don't feel like making a decision. I'm gonna have Faith choose for me. So I'll insert that clip here. All of the books I had on there were fairly hyped or new releases and on the shorter side. But obviously the one that won was Lone Woman by Victor LaBelle, which I believe is following this woman who is attempting to be a homesteader in Montana and is carrying around this trunk. That's all I really know. There's something mysterious about the trunk and it's a horror story. I'm intrigued to see where it goes. I am nearly finished with the Guild of Stories. I maybe have about 30 minutes left in the audio, so I'll probably be listening to that while I get ready for bed. I have conflicting feelings about this book. I really like the themes that are being brought up in it. I'm having a really hard time connecting with Gilda as a character. And I think it's something to do with the writing style where though she comes across very well created and I do understand her as a character, I just don't really feel like I am well set into her mind. It's not first person or even third person perspective from her alone, but she is the titular character. And yet I still, there's this distance that I just can't seem to cross when it comes to her. I don't really get it. I can't put my finger on what it is in the writing that isn't allowing me to connect with her as a character, but it's also preventing me from being completely invested in her story. This book is broken down in different chapters following her life throughout different points in history. So we start out when she is a runaway slave and is being taken in by these two women, and it jumps forward in decades as the story goes on. And I like how racism, systematic racism, like societal racism has been discussed in the multiple different points in time, how she sees the changes taking place and how she tries to partake in it, the changes she sees in the white people around her and how they respond to her being a woman who is oftentimes actually in a higher place of power than they're expecting. I really like all of that, seeing how she interacts with the different people around her and forms these connections. But again, there's just something that's preventing me from feeling invested in her story, so I'm not nearly as invested in her relationships either. I like the idea of this book, but unfortunately the execution for me is really lacking and I'm bummed about it. I really am. I do still have a little bit left. I'm in the final chapter, which is actually set in 2050, and it's really funky. Overall tone has shifted in a way that I just wasn't expecting. It is cool though that it sort of parallels the earlier time period, but in a very different way. Anyway, so today's Tuesday. Like I said, I had a pretty good day at work and then I was just super lazy when I got home. Possibly it's because my plans changed. Josh and I initially were supposed to be going out tonight to celebrate Valentine's Day, but unfortunately he is under the weather, which is why he ended up staying home. So we probably won't celebrate until later this week. But I guess it's just the matter that I was expecting Josh to be here and he wasn't. My plans got derailed and my brain was like, then, you know, you weren't planning to be productive tonight anyway. You don't need to be productive tonight. Hi y'all. So it's Friday. On Wednesday, I honestly don't really have an excuse for me not filming. It was more like I just was so focused on doing other stuff. I laid down in bed and realized, did I film an update? No, I didn't. I did officially finish out the Gilda stories. I liked this in terms of the discussions and the themes that were going on in this story, but I really was underwhelmed when it came to the character development of Gilda, and I also was underwhelmed in regard to like the relationships she was developing. There are 4 major women in the story, and I kind of had an issue with how every single one of their relationships and dynamics with Gilda was presented. So for example, Bird kind of rides the line between like a maternal figure and a girlfriend, but like a long distance girlfriend. I could kind of let that slide given the fact that relationship lines tend to blur when it comes to vampires with the whole siring aspect, and I'm sort of used to that from watching Angel. It's like one of my favorite TV shows, so of course, you know, that gets talked about sometimes. But I didn't like that Bird was such a driving force in Gilda's story and Gilda's life when we really don't see that much between them to make me convinced by the relationship. Then there's Eleanor, who is a vampire that Gilda meets when she's still relatively new, and is sort of the first vampire that Gilda interacts with who isn't 100% good nor 100% bad. A lot of the vampires she's interacted with are very, don't kill, just take what you need. There's a way they do this exchange in order to thank the people for giving them blood, even though the person isn't aware of this. And then there's obviously those who just kind of take pleasure in the kill and in the feeding, whereas Eleanor doesn't. She's very morally gray, and it's not because of her role as a vampire, it's more because of how she treats people and how she just sort of plays with them, manipulates them to do what she wants and entertain herself. This was also a character that Gilda is initially really intrigued by and sort of attracted to. But once more, I felt like the opportunity was there for a lot more exploration of that, and it just went underdeveloped. Then there's like the one character she actually has a romantic relationship with, 𝗖cie. As soon as they are alone together, they are coming together as a couple, and it felt so out of nowhere. I wasn't convinced by it. I didn't have an interest in it. It was like, oh. And then lastly, in the final chapter, which apparently is actually a addition from the 25th anniversary edition. Originally, the last chapter was set in 2020. Is a little ironic, and for the most part, it actually seems like Joel Gomez predicted what 2020 technology would be like, but not 100% accurate. Pretty close though. The next one is 2050, and I did like that it's a bit of a dystopian society due to climate crisis, and that's really the most I'll get specific about it. Gilda ends up turning this woman, and I really hated how it was written because she's been taught multiple times that turning someone is a really big deal. You really have to think about the consequences of this. They need to think about the consequences of this. And Gilda does it with like no question at all, pretty much at the drop of a hat, and the woman she turns has no say in this. Gilda removes her agency from it, which one of the most important elements of it, at least in what Gilda has been taught. And I don't know, it was really weird. I wanted more from this in the end, is basically how it worked out. I think I already told y'all that I had Faith pick my next book because I wasn't really in the mood to choose something. And so I started into Lone Women on Wednesday, basically between editing bouts when my laptop needed to charge. It's following a woman who is a homesteader moving to Montana. You get this piece of land, you get this house, but in return for this, the people who move there have to take care of the land and have to make it fertile once more, grow crops on it, and then take whatever they grow into the town to allow for some more commerce and trade going on. All the while, she is carrying the super heavy steamer trunk with her. I will say I was very intrigued to see what was going to happen with the trunk, but I feel like we get an answer a little too fast, and since then I'm still interested, but it's more like I'm questioning what the significance of the thing in the trunk is. It's really hard not to get into specifics. We also see her interactions with some of the other people in the town. Most people have moved here kind of out of desperation because Montana didn't specify who a homesteader could be. Essentially, they didn't specify it had to be a white man. There's another black woman in town, Birdie, who also has a Chinese partner, actually, which was kind of interesting to see. There's another woman that our main character befriends, Grace, who is staying with her child. It's kind of funny because, you know, she's living out in the middle of nowhere in the country, and she's expecting to be completely on her own, completely dependent on herself, but she's interacting with a lot of people constantly. Like every single chapter is a new interaction. It's very little time with her actually by herself. And I do think it's interesting seeing like the relationships that are developing. I like the historical aspects of the story. There's something not quite right, obviously, with what happened in regard to the steamer trunk, but I don't know, I just feel like it's kind of being underutilized. Started this on Wednesday and I did read a fair amount of it yesterday. I am currently at 157 pages. Hopefully I will be finishing it sometime tonight. As I said, it's Friday. I went over to my brother's yesterday. We had Indian, which was delicious, hung out, watched some more My Hero Academia. We are in the 6th season and my lord, it's hardcore, and I can tell that my emotions are not going to survive by the end. I just know it. Thank God the next season is dropping soon, is all I have to say. And then today's Friday, I had work. It was fairly chill. Josh is currently on his way over and we are gonna go out to dinner. He's finally feeling better so we can actually celebrate Valentine's Day, which is why I'm still a little bit dolled up after work. Unfortunately, he does have to do some homework tonight when we get back, so I will probably continue reading into Lone Woman then. Chances are I am not going to get out of hell, so I'll continue this vlog for the rest of the weekend, but this is probably going to be my last Jante's Inferno book. Hey y'all, happy Saturday. I hope you're having a good weekend. I most certainly am. I finally got to sleep in because last weekend Josh and I had to get up early on both Saturday and Sunday. So it was really nice to actually sleep in today. I basically forced Josh to go to the library with me once more, though he is starting to check out stuff as well, mostly manga and comics. I do love that I'm kind of pushing him into being a reader. Again, he used to be a reader, not really anymore, but now I'm like pushing him back into it. I actually took him to 2 libraries. So the one that was my old one near my parents' house, and then the one that's actually near my house. The one near my parents' house, I was actually able to get Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. I have a reading vlog for this. That means I need to read it here soon. And unfortunately, I can't seem to get it physically from my current library. And it's gonna be definitely a bit of a wait audio-wise on all of my library apps. I went ahead and shot my shot at my parents' old library, and thankfully I was able to get the physical copy, and then I put myself on the wait list for the audiobook. We'll see how that goes. I'm really intrigued to see how I feel about this book because this is definitely one that, I'll be honest, the fairies just kind of immediately made me knock it off my TBR. Fairies and I don't usually get along, but I do believe this is more fairies from fairy tales and folklore sort of thing, and less of like Sarah J. Maas fairies. Does help, but I'm still really intrigued to see which way this goes. It's cozy fantasy, and it's also had very mixed opinions. I have no clue about how I'm gonna feel on it. Then on the other side, when we were at my current library, I grabbed Star Wars The High Republic Path of Vengeance by Kevin Scott. This is going to be the sequel to Path of Deceit, which was a 4.5 stars for me. Really liked that. This intimidates me though because it is chunky. I mean, it's a young adult novel, but it's chunky. It is over 500 pages. We're revisiting some of the same characters from that previous book, Path of Deceit, and this is a completely different author, so I'm really interested to see how the voice has changed, or if the voice has changed. I imagine it probably will, but I am very excited to get to this one. Since we've been back, we've mostly been watching a lot of Naruto. We officially finished it. Officially did it. It took so long, but we did it. And now we're gonna be jumping into Boruto. I did want to give you guys an update that I finished out Lone Woman by Victor Lavelle. I liked portions of this book. I liked the beginning part. I felt like what was in the trunk was revealed a little bit too early because then it made the latter half of the book feel like it dragged a lot, but I did like what Lavelle did with many of those different side characters and kind of using them for like additional reveals and twists to keep your interest, but I felt like it took a while to really get there. And then I liked the finale, but I was a little upset that the real action doesn't actually take place on page, which is strange seeing as how this is a horror book and we see the aftermath of it. We know it was pretty gory, it was pretty rough. So it's weird to me that we don't actually see any of those events playing out. I don't know. It was really weirdly paced, I guess, is my biggest drawback on it. I would be intrigued to check out more from Victor LaValle, as I know he has a few other horror books that I've heard a lot of positive things on, because I really liked the idea here. I liked the topics that were kind of woven into the story here, and I actually liked the character dynamics, but the plot, this was one I wasn't expecting to pick up this month, so at least it's a book that I got off of my own TBR. And it was a book of the month book, so you know, that helps also. Unfortunately, I did not manage to get out of hell. To quote Has Been Hotel, hell is forever, and apparently I am now going to boil in the pot. But not a big deal. I still had a lot of fun. I really liked this idea for a readathon. I thought it was very original, and Jan did a great job with it. So as per usual, go follow Jan. Love her. But at least I finished 3 books this week and DNF'd 1. So, you know, still a fairly productive weekly reading vlog. And on that note, that is it for today, y'all. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, leave me a devil emoji in the comments. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. I have all my socials, as well as a few ways you can support me, linked in the description. I come out with videos on Monday and Friday, but until then, I hope you continue to have a terrific day. Love you, bye!